Welcome to the Innovators Insider podcast today. I'm here from the PTC podcast studio in beautiful Boston. The weather could not be better, Richard, unless it's better in Las Vegas.
Well, I don't know if it can be better. We're a little bit warmer out here, but as you can see, I've got my nice flowery Hawaiian style shirt on, so I'm certainly embracing the summertime. We did have some thunderstorms roll through. We have monsoon season going on right now, so hopefully that'll help fill up Lake Mead a little bit, and we won't run out of water by the end of summer.
Yeah, I heard the Strip was underwater last week or something.
Well, just a few of the casinos. And, I've been seeing those videos for about 20 years. It happens every monsoon season around here. The MGM Grand or the Link or one of those casinos floods the whole garage and it makes the local news and everybody gets all freaked out. And then the water goes away and everybody wishes it was back. So, it's weather. It happens.
Yeah, what are the chances of floods in Las Vegas? It's a gamble to predict when, but
yeah, I mean, they're what they call flash floods out here. And that's obviously because, most of the year the ground is so dry. So when we get these big thunderstorms that come through, it can't absorb it. It just runs off the top, starts running into the gullies and into the creeks. And pretty soon it's heading down the Las Vegas Strip.
Well, if there's any engineers listening to this podcast that are into any kind of environmental engineering or work like that, let's see if we can help Richard out and build some better systems to keep Vegas dry. It doesn't have a problem being dry very often. But.
That's right. And when we get water, we get too much of it. That brings up another thing. And I think I mentioned this to one of my family a couple of weeks ago. We have oil pipelines and gas pipelines all over this country. And yet we have areas of the country that are bone dry. Why can't we figure out how to move water when the Mississippi River floods or when Las Vegas floods? Why can't we collect that water somehow and ship it off to somewhere where it's supposed to be?
Yeah, that's a very interesting point.
Actually. Well, and like you say, hopefully some environmental engineers or somebody that's listening to this show that can tell me why that's not possible. I suppose it has a lot to do with money, but what the heck, our government throws around money like it's grows on trees anyway. So anyway, but we digress, huh? We've got a pretty good show today. I see you have some guests. We'll be talking to them a little bit later on. But first of all, I want to bring in a special guest. Last episode, we had a very interesting model of the week. Kind of fed into the whole, Webb telescope, people getting excited about space. And we ran across this model created by an Onshape user and made it the model of the week here at Onshape. And this episode, we are lucky enough to have the creator of that model, Jeremy Hansen, on the show. Hello, Jeremy. Welcome to the Innovators Insider podcast.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Hey, you bet. So, before we start talking about the model and start showing it off here, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? Are you in school? Where are you heading, Jeremy?
Well, I've homeschooled my whole life, so I'm not in school right now. And going forward, I'm just planning on working on designing stuff. And I'm not really sure exactly where I'm going right now, but I'm just going to kind of see where things take me.
Well, you're 19. There's still plenty of time to figure that all out, right?
Yeah.
So how did you come across Onshape? What got you started with Onshape?
Yeah, so about probably 4 years ago, my dad and I decided we wanted to build a telescope. So we started looking for 3D CAD software, and we came across Onshape, and it worked really well, and we've been using it ever since.
Wow. So a telescope started this. Now we've got your orrery model. I'm sure the Webb telescope fascinated you as well.
Yeah.
So apparently your family's into space.
Yeah. One of my main hobbies is astronomy, so I'm very interested in that.
Nice. Any aspirations of being an astronaut, or would you rather be the ground crew that helps them get there and back safely?
Yeah, I kind of like to keep my feet on the ground mostly, but
Yep, I'm right there with you. Well, let's talk about your model. We're going to go ahead and add it to the stream here. So this is the orrery model, right? And we found it just fascinating. And, I want to take a quick look here at at the animation, and we'll go ahead and animate this. And we'll just go ahead and loop that. So it's set up really nicely. I really like the way you put this model together. And here we go.
Oh yeah, zoom in on that, Richard. That's you got to zoom in on some of those gears. They look great.
Yeah, that is really sharp, Jeremy.
Thank you. Yeah, my plan for this is I'm going to start actually building it soon. So
Excellent, excellent. Well, I guess one of my other questions for you was going to be, when are you going to add the other planets? But I guess I guess that's for another project, maybe.
yeah, that would have to be a different project.
Yeah,
Obviously, it gets a lot more complex as soon as you start adding more and more
sure.
planets, and
Yeah, and a lot bigger, I would imagine too.
Yeah, but
yeah,
I'm looking
absolutely.
at this, Jeremy, and pleasure to meet you. By the way, it's I'm really impressed by this. To get the right angles of axis and everything in here. I mean, it looks pretty accurate to me as far as like the way things look, and you can figure out on June 2nd what the moon looked like in the sky. Depending on where you are, based on this, it looks like. So, what are you going to build it out of? Do you think you'll build it out of wood laser cut, or do you think you'll do 3D printing? What do you think you'll do, or a combo?
So for all the gears and the top plate, that's all going to be laser cut. We have a small laser cutter in our shop. So we're going to use that for the gears, and then for some of the smaller gears, like the bevel gears, those are going to be 3D printed, and then just the base piece is probably going to be CNC machined.
Yeah,
out of a piece of black walnut, I think.
Oh,
The
that'll
plan.
be nice. Yeah, nice
Yeah.
and heavy. That thing's not gonna move too easily off of wherever you're putting it. That's gonna be a beautiful piece. I'll have to render it
Yeah.
up in the Onshape render studio at some point.
Yeah.
All right. Yep. Beautiful model. Well, very well crafted and well done. If I could give you one piece of advice from a longtime CAD guy, name your features and rename your mates and everything that goes along. You'll appreciate that 10 years from now when you go back to look at this model and try to figure out what you did 10 years ago. So
Yeah, I always get going and then I figure I'll go back and rename it, and then I just get lazy and I don't get around to it. But
and we all do that. Do what I tell you, not like I do. That's what my parents used to tell me. So we'll look forward to seeing the actual build. I hope you'll share some pictures with us either on social media, or you can certainly email them our way. We'd love to see that after the build is completed. I want to thank you for being on the show, and thanks for creating a great model and allowing us to use it as our model of the week.
yeah, well, thank you for having me, and thank you for making Onshape available for public use.
I think it's John Hershick's pleasure. I think I can speak for him when I say that. So.
Yeah, totally.
All right.
Thanks.
Thank you very much, Jeremy.
Have a great day.
Thank you.
Wasn't that great?
That's awesome. And 19 years old. Started using Onshape when he was 15.
Yeah.
And 19 years old, and he can create models that look like that. Just amazing.
Yeah, homeschooled too. So, interesting, different way of getting into Onshape. We usually hear it, from the institutions and stuff.
Yep.
But, this is an interesting thing that people are finding out about Onshape who might not necessarily, be told about it, right?
Yep. And it's amazing too how many places you can go with an interest in space, right? Mm-hmm. So you can become an astronaut, you can become an engineer, you can become work in manufacturing, you could build rockets, you can fly rockets. Just that having that interest as a young person can really open some doors for you going forward. So
yeah, the sky's the limit with any kind of space design for sure.
Yep,
totally.
Good on Jeremy. Well, speaking of young folks. We've got a show full of interns here today, don't we?
We do, and you see, a couple of them have joined me here in the PTC studio. I really feel bad about not introducing them first. We have, but a couple of special guests here in the PTC podcast studio. I want to introduce Phoebe, and your last name is, because I butcher it every single time.
Phoebe Eliashev.
Phoebe Eliashev, and Mira, and your last name?
Dwyer.
Okay, great.
Well, we could have pronounced that one, but.
But tell us. Maybe we start with you, Phoebe. Tell us a little bit about what school you're in, and why you chose Onshape to intern at, how that whole process was. Just tell us a little bit about that.
Well, first off, it's really good to be here. Very excited. But yeah, so I go to Tufts University. I'm a rising senior doing mechanical engineering. I've known I wanted to do that since I think freshman year of high school. So long time coming. And I've been using Onshape since about that time too. I want to say junior year of high school, doing a stationary compost tumbler.
Oh,
And so Onshape has always kind of been on my mind.
cool. Did you actually build that thing out, or was it just an idea, or?
Oh, we did. It was for a community garden project,
Mhm.
and so we built the whole thing out of wood. Did it right in the school building. It was a great time.
Nice, nice.
Wow.
And we'll come back to you, Phoebe. How about you, Mira? What's your source?
I'm actually also a rising senior at Tufts University, but I got interested in Onshape in a slightly different way than Phoebe. I actually interned for PTC last summer, but I worked in corporate. And now I'm happily on the Onshape team as a product marketing intern. And I was really just drawn to the energy and youth that Onshape brought, and was really excited to work with a different, more segmented team.
Interesting. So, Phoebe, you're working for the technical services team in the intern program. So, what are some examples of things that you might get pulled into or work on, in your summer here at Onshape? Stuff that you can talk about. Obviously, we don't want to talk about things that haven't been released in Onshape yet or anything like that. But I think some of your projects are pretty cool, and we can tease a little bit.
Well, I think my position on the pre-sales technical services team has been super versatile. I've been able to sit in on demos and learn how to do them and generally interact with customers, which has been something completely new to me. I'm still able to create content, and I've been doing so with this little project where I've revamped a project that I did last semester for a machine learning driven kids toy. And I already designed it in Onshape, but I didn't have the full tool set to actually optimize that design and really let it do what it can do.
Yeah.
And so this summer I've been working on that, and it's leading to a tech tip blog post where I really dive into the custom features that Onshape can provide to allow users to optimize their workflow and really get the most out of their personal projects or company workflows.
Amazing. Yeah. Another project where we're going to see some laser cutting and stuff like that. How about you, Mira? I mean, what kind of activities are you involved with in a product marketing standpoint? It's a lot of the people that listen to this podcast might be mechanical engineers actually using CAD. So, it's good to kind of explain, what that means.
Sure. So one project I've been really excited about this summer is that I'm creating a web page to help prospective customers understand what it's like to transition from SolidWorks to Onshape, not just why they should do it, why it's so vital for agility and efficiency within their company, but also how to actually do it. So it's taking a lot of resources that Onshape has created to aid in these transitions and putting it in a more outward-facing format that's a lot easier for new Onshapers to use and find.
Totally. Yeah, I think that'll be a really valuable resource. Most of the people we talk to, they come from SolidWorks, right? We're obviously friends with a lot of these people that we've worked with over the years, and we want to, make sure that they have the right information when they're ready to make that switch to something like Onshape. So that's going to get a lot of views, a lot of hits, and really interesting. I mean, you two are interns, right? And the work that you're doing actually gets into real life stuff. You're talking to customers, Phoebe. You're actually putting stuff that's going to be probably one of the most viewed pages on Onshape.com, right? These are big initiatives, and the interns here do real work. It's really amazing to see, and it's been that way for many years. Here at Onshape, I remember. My first year at Onshape when we brought in the interns, I think we had 60 people employed at Onshape then. This was back in 2015, and we had 50 interns. It was almost completely outnumbered. Lots of snacks in the office, cheese and yogurt and all sorts of stuff was being gobbled up, during that summer for sure. It was a everyday trip for the office manager, I think. but but it was a lot of fun and a lot of good work came out of it. Richard, I'm sure you have a couple of questions.
I
for Phoebe
do.
and
So we've heard about where they came from and what they've been doing this summer. I guess I'm kind of interested in a couple of things going forward. Phoebe, it sounds like you're well on your way to a technical services engineering position. But what are your plans for after graduation?
I've been thinking a lot about that, let me tell you. I think between deciding where I want to live and everything like that, Onshape has actually provided some form of direction. 3 people on my team came out of the rotational program, and so I've been hearing a ton about that. I want to apply. I want to come back to PTC for another 2 years. I think since I'm not entirely sure what I want to do with mechanical engineering just yet, it would be a great time to explore my options and see what really suits me. And so my answer is I'm not sure, but also I'm very sure.
Well, yeah. I mean, you're only a senior, so you have at least a year to figure it all out, right? So, Mira, same question. Where are you heading after all of this?
Great question. Again, like Phoebe, we'll see. But I have really fallen in love with marketing. I'm actually a psychology major and entrepreneurship minor, so I kind of chose something I could do a lot with. When I entered Tufts, I had a general interest in marketing, but didn't really know exactly what I wanted to do with it. But being here has really helped me understand that product marketing offers specifically a lot of opportunity to create outward-facing content, which I really enjoy doing. But I also really love the energy of Onshape and the way that it's so innovative. So I want to be able to take that with me wherever I do end up. Hopefully it's Onshape, we'll see. But yeah, it's something that I've decided is really important to me when deciding on a career path.
Great answers all the way around.
Do we want to bring in the rest of the interns?
We probably should, because I'm sure they have some pretty interesting stories as well. Should we get everybody? We're going to get everybody on screen here, or we're going to bring Jack in first?
Let's bring Jack in, and then toward the end, I think we'll have
bring our
panel.
Special guest in, right? Yeah.
All right, so let's bring in Jack.
There's Jack.
Hey,
Jack.
How you doing?
Doing good.
Excellent.
Great to have you on the show. So, we'll go ahead and we'll start with that same first question for you, Jack. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, I guess my journey to Onshape is maybe a little interesting. So I work currently as like a software engineer on the feature script team on Onshape. But I've been programming computers sort of like Jeremy since maybe middle school or high school. And so by the time I was in high school, sort of at the end of high school, I had some pretty substantial software development skills, at least, for my educational level. And I worked my way into an internship at PTC, but over in the Vuforia product, where I did, some unit testing and sort of got my hands dirty with like corporate, like a real enterprise software environment, which was really cool.
Jack, can I take a time out on
absolutely,
Vuforia? Because we haven't mentioned that too much on the podcast, and I think it would be great if everybody listening to the podcast knows what Vuforia is.
Oh, yeah.
Does.
Yeah. So Vuforia is a recent acquisition, semi-recent, of PTC's as well. And they do augmented reality framework, or
right.
What do they do? So I think the product they have is Vuforia Studio, where you get to sort of in a code-free way develop augmented reality experiences, sort of depending on in an easy way. So like,
right.
I know a lot of the demos are you have some part or some machinery and you want to do a repair, and someone can create like an AR repair manual
Repair
in
manual, yeah.
in Vuforia Studio, and it sort of shows you, like, highlights the bolt and says, take this one out and then this one, and don't touch that red button and whatever you're supposed to do, and really sort of the visual cues, I think, are sort of the advantage there. That
Richard and I remember the old days of this type of work, obviously, and still the old. A lot of people still use the old ways now, but just creating those exploded views by hand, right, in a CAD system, and kind of manually taking care of this in other technical publishing illustration tools. People are using Adobe products and taking their CAD models in and putting that all together. And I think the nice thing about the augmented reality method, it's much easier to train people, right? They're able to put on a pair of whatever HoloLens or something like that, and see it right in front of their eyes. It's amazing. It's almost like magic when you see it the first time.
And that internship, I got to wear a HoloLens for the first time, and that was pretty cool to see. And I think like you said, I think that the AR is a really cool piece. That seems like where a lot of the technology world is sort of heading to, these like metaverse.
The metaverse, exactly.
Right, like, and it's a very natural piece of that bubble of technology to sort of do this augmented reality thing, and the way it incorporates all the different pieces of PTC's product portfolio is pretty cool. Like, even I know a lot of the really cool demos, I think, involve ThingWorx and like the CAD tools, where the identification gets sort of like automatically generated from your CAD tools, and the data gets automatically pumped in from your ThingWorx thing, and then you've like got it in your AR view, and it's sort of this like neat kind of bow on top of like kind of tying all this.
It's just work. It works like it should work.
Right, exactly.
Well, so that sounds like a lot of fun working on stuff like that last year, but what have you been doing this year, Jack?
Well, right. Okay. Yeah. This year I've been working on Onshape has a variable feature, but a highly requested addition to the variable feature has been the ability to measure existing geometry in your part and assign a variable that measured value. And so that's what I've been working on this summer, is adding that capability to the Onshape product. And it should be out in version 152 coming soon. It's not.
We'll say coming soon is what we say around here.
Oh, sure. All right. Yeah.
Actually, that sounds like a pretty good feature. I'm looking forward to actually seeing that one.
Yeah. So you can use it to measure lengths of parts, sizes of gaps, diameters, radii, and even there's some sort of neat like projection tricks in there you can use to kind of get specific oriented, like, measurements from particular views of the part and stuff like that. So
and then use that as a variable. Yep, good stuff.
Right, exactly. Good stuff. So then you can use it to drive, something that fits perfectly into the gap you put into your part or something like that. So
parametric design at its finest.
It is, exactly.
and we'll look forward to seeing that soon. So what are your plans after the internship, Jack? Where do you head from here?
Oh, that's a good question. So I study mathematics at school, actually. So I am, I'm sure the other interns, I've been doing a lot of thinking about what I'm doing after school, but I've been doing sort of a to grad school or not to grad school kind of question too. But obviously, so I've stuck around at Onshape, and I really love the sort of culture and energy, which I think the other interns have noted. It's just a fun place to work. So,
well, and I'm lucky. I get to interact with a few of the interns, and I see the same kind of energy on that side too. So it's been a great summer with all the interns. We've seen some wonderful work come out of this. And I expect that we'll be seeing some more because the intern program isn't quite over yet. So,
yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, Jack.
Yeah,
So we have one guest left, Michael, and I think some of our listeners and viewers probably know this young guy. Let's go ahead and bring in another intern. It's his second go around. Welcome, Alnus Midgens. Hello, Alnus. Good to see you.
Hey, folks. Great to be here.
We're always happy to have you on the show. So this is your second go around as an Onshape intern, right?
Yep.
And I guess, since we let Jack talk about last year, why don't you tell us a little bit about what you did last year?
Yeah, so last year I was an intern on the product management team, which is where I'm an intern again this year. And I kind of worked on a range of projects. So part of it was figuring out where is the market going in terms of CAD systems and figuring out what are the next steps that we need to do to be successful. Part of it was also developing some infrastructure for developers who used Onshape API. So putting together some samples and starter projects and a client for Onshape in the Google Apps Script system. So those were a couple of the things, and in many ways I've been continuing some of that work this year. So that's kind of what team I'm on and what I'm working on.
That was going to be my next question. You've been able to pick up some of that stuff that you worked on a year ago and continued with the work this year as well?
Yeah. So this year, my task specifically was to focus in on integrating Onshape with other product development tools. Basically, Onshape has an amazing, powerful API with more than 1,000 endpoints. In non-technical terms, that's how many things you can do with it. But our documentation is not quite there, and our samples also aren't there. So what I'm working on are basically extensions and samples that are both useful to customers, first and foremost, but also useful to developers because it gives them an example of what you can do with Onshape API and how to actually do it.
Nice.
So go ahead, sorry.
No, keep going.
Yeah, so currently I'm very close to releasing 2 extensions for Onshape. One of them is called Reference Finder. It's essentially in the same way that you can use where used in Onshape to find references in Onshape to where a part is used in other assemblies. You can also use this reference finder to see where people are talking about a model in Slack, or have it referenced as tasks in Jira or Trello, or have written documentation about it in Google Docs or in Confluence. So it's essentially a one-click button where you get this visual on everywhere where a document's being referenced outside of Onshape. So to get that, you can go to referencefinder.net. It's going to be launching extremely soon once some final approvals go through with Google. And the other thing that I've been working on that I can publicly talk about is a variable connector feature. So the idea is that oftentimes engineers will use spreadsheets to analyze a model, but it's a little annoying if you have to manually get data from the CAD system and put it into the spreadsheet for analysis. So what variable connector does, you can find it at variableconnector.com. It's going to also be launching very soon, is it lets you take a configurable Onshape model and regenerate dozens of different configurations in a spreadsheet. Or you can also manage your configurations in a spreadsheet with nice dropdowns that it generates, etc. And you can get great visuals and great analysis out of it pretty easily right in Google Sheets. So those are the 2 major projects I'm working on.
Wow, I would say that sounds pretty major, that's for sure.
Oh, and then there's one bigger thing. I can't mention any details of it, but all I'm going to say is Codebeamer.
Okay, well, I don't. Yep, Michael seems to know what you're talking about. I don't, so I'm glad to be ignorant of the whole thing here, since you can't say anything else. So how's school going?
School's going great. I'm currently a rising junior at the University of Washington, where I'm studying applied physics. I'm also considering a minor in oceanography. Specifically, the university is starting up an ocean technology program, which is super interesting to me. Ocean technology is interesting to me because I'm the CTO of the underwater remotely operated vehicle team at the University of Washington, which is where we build underwater robots. You can find our website at uwrov.org. It's not quite up to date though, but you can still get a sense of what we do there.
You guys finished pretty high up in a competition here recently, didn't you?
Yes, we did. Just a little bit over a month ago, we out of the 20 teams that qualified for the upper division at the Mate International Championship, we placed second. So second of the 20 teams that qualified for the International Championship.
Very nice. Very nice. Well, I don't know, what you're going to be doing after school, oceanography. I don't know how you're going to handle all of that while you're working for Onshape. So, anyway, we hope you'll come back for at least another intern round next summer. And good luck to you in the future, obviously. And thanks for all of the great things that you've done for Onshape. I know that I've seen some, we can't talk about a lot of the things, obviously, but I've seen some of those things at the weekly meetings, and they're just unbelievable. So,
yeah.
And that goes for all the interns. I mean, I saw some great stuff from Jack the other day. We've seen other presentations from the other interns during this whole summer thing, and it's just been wonderful. And I think it's a great program. And kudos to Onshape and PTC for putting this all together.
I do want to add a little bit about the Codebeamer stuff because it's a new thing for PTC. They acquired a company based out of Germany, and they were involved in an area of the business called Application Lifecycle Management, or ALM, right? Think of it as PLM, but for almost like think about the automotive industry. Like, think of a car, think of like an electric car, Mercedes electric car, for example. These cars have more lines of code than like Grand Theft Auto 5, right? As far as like a video game, it's like insane amounts of code drive cars nowadays, and you need software to manage the code. And if you think about automotive, they have an extremely large supply chain in which they're dealing with hundreds and hundreds of vendors. So they really need to have good. These cars are making life and death decisions now. So we need to make sure that we have good code, good management of that code. Understanding the flow of information is critical in this. So it's really cool. It's really awesome that PTC has acquired this technology, and it's one of the coolest companies. They get it. They talk the agile way. It's like they're a perfect fit in the world of the Onshape kind of ecosystem and in the world of PTC. So.
Nice.
Yeah,
can't wait to see what comes out of that. Yep.
Yeah. So, definitely. We should probably bring back everybody to.
Yeah, let's bring everybody back for a little group hug here.
Yeah. So, hey, Jack, we got Mira, and let me open this up so we can actually see each other a little bit better.
Yeah, we might have lost Jeremy, but.
Yeah, I think Jeremy's. I don't see his camera.
Oh, there he's back.
Yeah, let's bring Jeremy back too.
All right.
Yeah, so, it's really cool to see, the energy, coming in, to PTC and the Onshape here, and to see what our customers are doing. I'm really happy everybody's here today.
Yeah.
And I think, if with all you need to come up with, like, I feel like I don't know if I need inspiration, to go and do my job every day. I love what I do, but if you do need inspiration, the faces that you see here on the screen and the stories that they told, I think are great inspiration for anybody who wants to fully dive in head first into the pool of engineering and manufacturing. It's a fun place.
Yep.
Water.
Yeah, and I agree. And, at my age, I don't need a lot of inspiration. I've been inspired for a long, long time. But what I am happy to see is the young folks coming up, the kind of things that they can produce, the kind of things that they talk about, the dreams and the plans that they have. At 15 years old, picking up Onshape and learning how to CAD, or as a junior in high school, learning Onshape and working on projects. I see a lot of STEM activity, and it's just increasing, and I think that's a good thing. And I'm glad to see the folks that came here and came to help Onshape out this year. It doesn't get any better than this, really.
I agree. Well, I really want to thank everybody for joining us here today. We should give everybody, we should do the wave. Right?
Yep, we got to have a
wave.
a wave in here somewhere. Yep.
All right.
Yep.
Jack, you too. Again.
Oh, yeah. All right. Yeah.
Good. Cool.
All right. Well, we don't know what we're going to be talking about next time, Michael, but I'm sure it'll be something pretty interesting. For you folks out there, if you like what you see, please hit that like button for us. Make sure you subscribe so that you don't miss a single episode. Alnus, Jeremy, Jack, Mira, Phoebe, thanks again so much for being on the show. And Michael, always a pleasure to be with you, buddy.
All right. See y'all later.
Thanks for having me.